Hey guys, Keith Keller, Melbourne, Australia. And this is Virtually Unlimited TV. Today's show is all about live streaming. How do you do it? How do you put all those pieces together into a definable show? How do you get engagement? How does a live stream differ to a virtual event? And where are they going? Is everyone going back into the city to events, or have we become accustomed to this virtual event world? I love them, and I can't see myself going back to real events in a hurry. We just had an extension of our lockdown. We can't do it. We can't go outside until the 23rd of September, and it's starting to wear us down. And I'm not the only one. There's people in lockdown all over Australia and all over the world. So today's show, I'm going to introduce Marissa Carley from Nashville, and she's going to talk all about the idea of, well, how do we do these live event things? How do we do these checklists for live streams? We're going to have a really, really robust show. I'm really, really excited about that. I'm using StreamYard. We're going to talk about that. And I'm doing everything myself. I tell you what, I wish I had a Marissa in my pocket. I wish I had Marissa at my disposal, because I've got to do everything. I've got to push all the buttons. I've got to talk at the camera. I've got to listen to the comments. I've got to wait. We've already got a comment in the show already. There it is. Someone is coming in, and hello, Keith. So that person is calling in from Vietnam.
Nice.
Hanoi, Vietnam. So Melbourne, Nashville, Hanoi.
Yes.
Right now you're seeing the value proposition of what we're doing here. And a big hello to Challenge TV. Hello, Marissa, he says.
Hello.
Hello, Keith. Hello, Marissa. Right. So now we've got a very, very engaged idea. You can see the value proposition. So just to let you know how we're doing it today, I'm actually sending the show to 3 places at once. There's only one of me. I've only got one brain and two hands, but I've got to manage it all. And we're talking about that exact thing today. I'm going to send it to YouTube, to LinkedIn, and to Periscope. So please let me know where you are in the world, and I'd love to tell everyone about you. Here we are. Big hello from Toronto, Martin Buckland. G'day, mate. We've been following each other for a long time, and that's Martin on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is obviously working, and this is a very good example of what we're talking about. We're talking about the idea of multiple streams, one event, one hour session in the comfort of my home office. Now goes to Toronto, Vietnam, Nashville, Melbourne. How cool is this? How cool is this?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Look, because we're really rocking it, I'll come back with some of those pattern interrupts in a minute. Marissa, why don't you jump in now and tell us a little bit better what you're doing, and sure. Let's really start to riff on what is this idea of a live stream, and how does it differ from virtual events, because they're both sort of buzzwords at the moment, yeah?
Yeah, it's been a buzzword pretty much for about a year now, or probably a year and a half. What's the difference between live streams and virtual events? Well, virtual events are big productions. You have a lot of audience engagement. There's a little bit of sponsorship. There's virtual photo booths. There's a bunch of different things. But within that virtual event, there are live streams. So, a lot of people will consider a virtual event that big, where you have different booths, you have different sessions, breakout rooms, networking rooms, you're doing all of that. But it can be very simple into what this is. And the work that you've put into this specific live stream is for sure an event. We're talking about live streaming here, and I'm sure you've been able to talk about things in Twitter, your specialty, Twitter marketing, different things. But there's a lot of people that are doing 1-hour events that are live streams, but also virtual events, because they care about the engagement. They add some type of entertainment value into it. So I hesitate to say that they're two different things, but there are. I think when someone tries to do a live stream, it's just, I just press the go live button. But, that's a little bit different here, especially with your specific experience. It's not just pressing go live.
Let me pick up on that. The question is, and please feel free to ask the questions wherever you are, LinkedIn, Twitter, and also Periscope. And a big hello here on Here we go. Here we are. Minecrafting Dad. That's Chris in Philadelphia. So he's on
Hi,
Periscope.
Chris.
Right, there it is, Periscope. So
They're
we've
all
already
working.
got the team working. Periscope, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. This is the value proposition of what we're talking about. But let me riff a bit on what I believe the difference is. So live streaming is this. I use StreamYard, but you can use Restream. You could use Fireside.
Right.
You could use any number of other sites. So HAPS, Riverside FM. There's a number of maybe hundreds, and they're very broadcast style. I do the show, and I have a guest or a series of guests, and we can have little comments. Right? And that's a very simplified version of this story. Simplified is a relative term because it's still bloody hard. But when you have a virtual event tries to simulate a real event. So you have networking sessions, you have breakout rooms, you have entertainers. And there's a number of sites. We'll talk about this a little bit more. Hopin, which now owns StreamYard, very good site. Run the World, extremely good site. Zoom now does this as an upsell from their webinar platform. They just invented that 2 weeks ago. And they have an event next week, Zoomtopia. If you want to go and see that, zoomtopia.com, probably the best case study into live. Have you heard of this one, Marissa, Zoomtopia?
No, I have not heard.
So Zoom has once a year an event where it showcases all its new features. And it's the classic virtual event idea. We're running a virtual event about everything we do in the virtual world. It's called Zoomtopia. Zoomtopia.com. I'll put that in the show notes in a minute. So here we are talking about what live streams are and what virtual events are. But I think the bigger question is, now they're hard. Why is it so important to have a plan? Let's pick up on that. Why do you need to have a plan?
Yeah, I mean, you have a plan specifically, and you were able to kind of run through the show when I came on as a guest. And it's important to have a plan to know what you're going to talk about so that you're not fumbling around. And if I'm looking down, if I'm the host and I'm looking down and, going, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, it's just
it's not a very good experience for the user, is it?
Yeah, it's right now. We're past the stage of people's experience being able to just, let it be, let it fly. Okay, we're just pressing go live. It should be some type of event or look and simulate a lot, like a news show or something, some type of plan, like I said, to what your show is going to be, because you can no longer just press go live and expect people to show up because so many people are going live.
It's a very crowded marketplace, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's crowded, but there's still a way to find your niche. And I wouldn't get discouraged by the fact that it's crowded, but you have to level up what you're doing compared to, the same person. I mean, be your unique person, but also you can't just go by and do nothing with all of these new things and new tools being available to you.
The reason why that's so important is because I'm using StreamYard. I've tried Restream, and there's OBS and there's XSplit and there's all these different ones. And each of these sites requires a little bit of planning because you've got to get your head around how to use them. Right. So the way I do it, and I'm going to work people through that. I sent you 5 questions. So at the very least, we're going to cover 5 topics in the course of this hour. So you've got a bit of structure yourself. Right. You can do a little bit of research. You know where this is going. I do want to mention that you're very, very welcome to ask questions. Let me just this is a new technique I've learnt on Twitter Spaces, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's called the refresh. So if you're joining just now, I wanted to let you know that we're actually broadcasting live to YouTube, to Periscope, and to LinkedIn. And I want you to feel free to ask questions if you have them. What I'd also like you to do, if you haven't got any questions, is I'd love to know where you are in the world. Where are you calling in from? We've already got Vietnam. We've already got Canada. We've already got the US. We've already got Australia. but where are you? And most importantly, this is the big question I like to know: what device are you on? That might get the party started. So feel free to jump in there and let us know where you are. So that's an interesting thing. But as we're talking, I can tell you that I'm pushing all these buttons, and I just wish that I had Marissa on the side going, mate, you talk, I'll push the buttons. And this is exactly what you do, right? I don't have to worry about pushing buttons because you're doing that, right? When you do your quiz. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we're talking here about the importance of having a plan, and that sort of holds the show together. But then the third question, and we've got another comment coming in, and this is exactly what I want.
Android. He's watching on Android.
Android. Okay, Minecrafting Dad. That's Chris.
Team Android.
Chris. Team Android. Team Android. That's good. So that's handy to know. So we've got another question in the scheme of things, and that is, well, how do you get more engagement? So we've worked out what a live stream is, and we've worked out how they differ from virtual events. We've worked out why it's important to have a plan. Now the big question: how do you get engagement? I'm really going to let you drill in on this, because this is probably the most important. This is where the rubber hits the road, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's two types of engagement when we ask about them being engagement. It's being engaging on your actual stream. Are you looking into the camera? Are you acknowledging Minecrafting Dad, Martin, all these people, tuning in, even if it's just a hello? That is something that, it fuels our adrenaline and our good vibes. Oh, wow. Keith just called me out. I'm going to watch again. He's going to answer my question if I ask a question, or the guest is acknowledging or waving to someone when they join the stream. Those are very simple and a visual cues and audio cues that you can do when you're live streaming. But I think another thing is also, are you really asking for people to engage on the stream? Are you asking you've been asking, where are you watching from? What platform? What area of the world are you watching? These are very simple questions that can be answered in the beginning and throughout your stream to make sure that people feel that they're valued and their time is valued on the stream. And that's related to this specific live stream, but there's so many other events where, they have Q&A sections at the end, and they make sure that, that is said, okay, well, we're going to have questions at the end. Make sure you add your questions. There's a lot of virtual events that have separate staff that manage just the questions part. And
hello.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about there.
And there's I don't know. I mean, if I was working with this show, it might just need one person, right? Based on the audience and things that, the complexity of your show. But when you're doing virtual events, there's someone like me pressing the buttons. There's someone managing the comments. There's someone managing the speakers. There's 6 people. I've worked on projects where there's 6 people behind stage. And it's important to have that depending on what you plan to do with the live stream after the fact. Are you just going to hit end broadcast and it's over and it's done? Most of the time, that's not the best strategy for your live stream, because you want to make sure that your guest is, getting use out of the repurposing of the content. But if it's just you doing the live stream, you can cut that up into multiple parts of content that can be on social, which is
a bit of a waste, doesn't it? It seems a bit of a waste to go to all the trouble to actually say, for instance, this particular live stream, which will go 1 hour. I mean, we've been planning this for a month, because I've got and this is a very good example of a plan. I have a show planned every week until the end of September, but I've got to do the show. I've got to find the guests. I've got to think of a title for the show. I've got to load it to YouTube. I've got to start promoting it. So it seems a shame to do all this work and then just let it go. It just seems almost a bit silly. So with that in mind,
I think also I want to add something to that, because I think a lot of people then will get overwhelmed and not start. But it can be as simple as taking the audio and converting it to a podcast. There it is, there. You don't have to start a new podcast. You just have it, put it up on, and maybe you promote it later on down the line. It doesn't matter. It's another channel that you can start talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's one of the, I do a side project. It's a fun thing we do. We don't repurpose the content very much. We have a YouTube channel, but the audio is then transferred to an audio platform, or it's onto a podcast platform. And then we have a podcast. So if someone really wants to just listen to the podcast, they can, and it's there. We're repurposing what's already given to us using a studio like this, a live stream studio like StreamYard or Restream or whoever else, Riverside, all these other ones.
Yeah, there's quite a few. There's quite a few now, and I think this idea of repurposing is a very key point. And we'll get to it over time. The key is that you're right. You don't want to get overwhelmed. You just need to start.
Yeah.
So here, oh wow, Jamaica. Now look. This is today's show is all about where are you in the world. Right. Erica is in Jamaica, and she's on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that LinkedIn?
Yes.
Or is that? Yeah.
Yep.
So Erica is in Jamaica. She's in LinkedIn. Martin Buckland is in Toronto. He's on LinkedIn. My friend in Vietnam is on Periscope, YouTube. And look at this, another Periscoper.
Nice.
Brent. So really, we're a use case for our own story.
Yes.
Brent is watching this on Twitter. I'm doing this. It's very meta. I'm doing a live stream about live streaming, talking about where are you watching on, and shouting people out. But it's exactly what we're talking about with engagement, isn't it? Brent has gone to the trouble of typing in Twitter into his Periscope feed, and all I do is just acknowledge that. It doesn't take much effort from me, but Brent gets a bit of a dopamine hit, and so does Erica, who is in Jamaica. Yes, indeed, she's in Jamaica. So there it is. This is live streaming 101, isn't it?
Yes, for sure.
So let's pick up on this. Engagement is the key point. So let's riff on it. How do we get more engagement? What do you recommend people do because this is part of your plan in the video. I've shared the video with quite a few people, but it doesn't seem very much point doing a live stream if no one's watching it. So how do you get more people to watch it and, more importantly, engage with it? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
I think, Erica did talk about, just starting. And I think a lot of people, if they haven't built up an audience, they don't have relationships already formed in their preferred platform, Twitter, LinkedIn. I've gone live before and I've had people not watch, but I also remember that the reason why I'm doing it is to provide value and potentially repurpose it and not get too discouraged, because there's not a lot of people that are like Gary Vee or like Elon Musk that are going to get tons of people watching their stream. I think it's really important to remember that you're doing it, the reason why you're doing it, and not always look for the engagement. And if you really are struggling for engagement, there's got to be other marketing tactics that you employ. Are you getting people are you inviting people on your email list? Do you not have an email list? That's completely separate subject. Are you really active on Twitter and people just don't engage with you? I don't think that's the case for you. But there's other ways of engaging, bringing people into your live stream that are marketing tactics, and, make it interesting. I mean, a lot of people will not get dynamic guests. They won't have a plan. They'll sit there and wait for people to show up and say, okay, does anyone have any questions? And just wait there and make it awkward. Like if I'm watching on a replay, I'm not going to watch that. I want you to get right into what you have to talk about, because, with so many people online and digital overwhelm, I think it's really important to just deliver the value, like Erica said.
There's just too much going on. Isn't there there's too much going on to wade through. Hello, is there anyone there? Got any questions? I'm just sitting here. Come on. I'm waiting.
Yeah.
So I pre-program the show a couple of weeks ahead. I send the guests some questions. So we're already, we hit the ground running from minute one, even if no one's watching straight away. And that is really powerful for the replay viewers. I'm going to get to this in a minute. I want to just shout out to Erica, because she says that she's starting her podcast. So we're having an effect. People are seeing this working, and we're getting the replays from our Zoom calls and our StreamYard sessions, and people are starting to work it. And isn't that just the coolest thing?
Yes, I know. It's I think people are reinventing the way that they can connect with people. I mean, we've seen it here. We have Canada, Philadelphia, Jamaica, Australia, Tennessee, like all of these different people. And you never know what that can turn into if you just keep, delivering the value, but also being curious about people that, and this is like a holistic thing when you talk about live streaming. Like, are you curious about the people that are ending up watching, or do you just care about delivering or getting the sale from them? Like, of course, the sales will come. I mean, they have come, I'm sure, with you and with me. But it is about relationships and building that trust through being present. And my quote is my slogan is, be present for the conversations that matter. And that is... Yeah, go ahead.
Be present for the conversations that matter. Let's type that in. Look, I want to just shout out to Erica again, because Erica has been a real fundamental, and I'm going to say this, to the world. Nice. Working with Erica has fundamentally changed my view of the world in regards to what's possible. And I want to share a really cool story that is exactly where we're going with this. In 2000, it feels like 19 something. In 2019, Erica shouted out to me and said, "Mate, do you want to come and speak at my gig in Jamaica? Can you come? Can you come, please? Can you come to my gig in Jamaica?" And I Googled it. It was 27 hours on a plane.
Oh, wow.
And it worked out to be 36 hours from the moment I left my house to the moment I got to the hotel, because you've got to wait in Miami and you've got to wait in LA, right? And you've got to wait at Melbourne Airport. You've got to be there an hour and a half ahead, and it's an hour and a half to the airport from my house. Oh. So I worked out that to go to this event, which was 3 days in May 2019, I would have to leave the house about 2 days early to get there, allow an hour, sort of a day's rest, riff for 3 days, and then go home. And it would be about a week out of my time. So 2019, Erica and I've got stats for this, Erica and I came up with this plan where we would do this gig online. This is a true story. This has fundamentally changed my whole life. And I'm so proud to know Erica is a friend. So on this particular event, we reached 2.8 million people around the world with 500 tweets. It's exactly what you do, Marissa, except I do it as a tweet. You do it as behind the scenes. And our friend May King T does this also.
Yes.
So I was on my laptop and my house tweeting about this event. And 2.8 million people saw it. Right. And the actual event was about tourism in Jamaica. So it was the absolute best case scenario for what we could have possibly hoped for. I could have went there and I could have spoke in a room with people like this. I could have done that. I've done that 100 times. But I thought, no, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try something different. And I did it on my laptop. And Erica really, really embraced this. And we fundamentally shifted the way that we do events now. This is well before the pandemic. And a friend of mine, Simon, who often comes on my calls, is from Ireland. He's not in at the moment because it's 3 a.m. He basically said, "Mate, we've got to do more of this." So with that in mind, have you got examples of where you're seeing the shift from the online world to the online world from the real world, separate to the pandemic, but probably in a way because of it? Okay, so the question there is, what's next for live streaming and virtual events? That's one of the questions we had planned, but that was just a perfect segue into that. What do you think the world is doing with this idea?
Yeah, I mean that's a great story, by the way. It's beautiful. I think it's awesome that you've formed this friendship, especially with Erica, but all those other people. And I think I've been part of those things, the last couple years with live streaming and anyways, that's another story. We can do another show on that, the global impact of live streaming. But I think the future of events, and I just want to acknowledge Sharon if she's still watching. Yes, you're able to monitor comments from all the platforms. So
let's pick up on that. That's a real.
Yeah.
This is actually a really good example, Sharon.
Yeah.
I have a preconceived list of questions, and we could have just said questions at the end. Don't bother me now, which I've been a zillion webinars like that, which really, really, really pissed me off. I've got a question now. I want the answer now. You've got a question now. Let's answer it now, right? So Marissa, we'll come back to the other question, but this is a question from the audience. Let's pick up on this. What do you think? Drill down a bit.
Yeah. It depends on the tool. I use StreamYard most in terms of the studio. So they come in directly to the studio and we're able to see them. And, there are settings where guests will not be able to see them. Sometimes there's these very high level comments or maybe like aggressions towards specific organizations where guests have had to like turn the comments off or like disable them. But yeah, it just depends on the stream. But yeah, you can monitor all those comments right in the studio, Keith. So, and same with, me, like I was saying, that the separate person that's monitoring comments, like if you're getting a stream, I've seen comment streams where they're just like, tons coming in. You need someone, besides myself that's making the show run, to look at the comments and make sure that they get pulled out, or if you're going to have a Q&A or ban people,
segment them, because there are a lot of comments, and I really absolutely want to thank every single person that's making the comments, because the reason I love live streaming as opposed to podcasting and YouTube videos is that this show is changing as you make a comment, right? I can passively sit on my couch and watch Netflix all night, but I'm not involved in that. I don't have any result. I don't have any. I don't have any input into how the show turns out. It's pre-recorded and it comes in, and then the ads come and blah blah blah. Because we're watching it on paid TV at the moment. If we're watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, just the new season started, and we noticed last night that there's ads on these these platforms now, and I'm just sitting there watching this ad. I have no charge separate to muting. And so the thing I love about live streaming is we have comments. Sharon asked a comment and we answered it. Sharon asked a question and we answered it. That changes the dynamic of the show. The show is now directly related to what Sharon said. That will change. And as Erica very politely said, this is a game changer. This is a game changer in the way that events will be run. And Erica is really digging this. Thanks, Marissa. Can't wait to have you at our next event. She runs events, and this is a great example of how to leverage or to further the idea. You've come on my live stream as a favor to me, and my friend Erica, who runs events in Jamaica, now knows about you. And it's the perfect sort of circle, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's what the beauty, and it all started in social media. I know we talked about this, and I'll get back to that other question about the future of events.
Plenty of time.
We talked about you on social media and constantly on there, and I was like, well, I don't check my DMs. I use my email, and we went back and forth, and it was like we have different day-to-day things that we do. You spend a lot of time doing that, and thank you for being very persistent and diligent with giving me all the information. I do appreciate that. But also, we're coming back now for full circle, because without that, I wouldn't have felt comfortable coming on the show, because I would, am I going on the show, just to like, are you going to engage with me as a host and I'm the guest, or, we're going to go back and forth? Or is it, I'm just going to go and speak and there's not going to be a call to action? Like there's not going to be something that I could provide your audience now as well as in the future. And so there's, it's just, but it's the beauty of social media. It started rooted in social media, but it became a conversation and a relationship. Keith, I feel like I know you a little bit from all of our conversations.
Yeah.
Now we're on this live stream and potentially on a future event with Erica and myself and you and other people.
Well,
So
I want you to visualize. I want to actually share this story. I want to share this story.
Okay.
This story here. This is a
Yeah.
real story that happened to us. Erica, my mate Chocolate Johnny, who I'm sure you know. Have you heard of Chocolate Johnny?
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah. And a few other of my mates. The whole world is there. Perth, Melbourne, Sydney, Jamaica, Connecticut, and Edmonton, Canada. Right. The whole world is right there. Not Africa, unfortunately, and Europe, because it's difficult. So we did an event on Hop In, very early days, and it didn't work.
Oh.
And Erica knows this specifically. So we were working on our first event together, and we tried this new site at that time, Hop In. We thought hopin.to, very cool URL, hop into live events. And we had 32 people like primed up to come, and they all got the link, and they're DMing me, mate, I can't get in. I can't do this. So what I did, I'm very, very proud of this, is I just quickly set up a StreamYard session within a minute, had a backup. We had that was the best day ever. We flipped it. We turned our lemons into lemonade, and all of those 32 people met us in this platform, and you can have 10 at a time talking. So we just rotated. And we said, look, let's flip it. And that's part of the plan, isn't it? The idea of a backup plan or a plan B is that if the site doesn't work or your internet doesn't work, because we only get 52 megabytes a second, and a friend of mine in Dublin was saying yesterday gets 13 megabytes a second on a bad day. 13 megabytes a second. I mean, you can't do anything at all. So he's really struggling to get involved in this community, but he's moving to the country and he's hoping to get 1 gigabyte, in his production style house, which is very exciting. We're in a whole show about that. So here we are talking about the possibilities. It's a good show because it's very dynamic. We could have talked at each other, with each other, and it would have just been very flat. But the fact that we've now got comments reminds me of real stories that I wouldn't have thought of telling because there was no context, right?
Right.
And so thank you. This is very meta. Me actually tweeting stuff about myself. I love this because I can do it. Someone else has said it. It's not me talking. And so, we're trying it. We're trying it. This was we actually coined a phrase there. The best live event we never went to because it didn't work. And but we flipped it and we learned something.
Right. Yeah.
So it brings us back to that question of what do you think the future is for live events and live streams? Do you really think everyone's going to go back to the city when we can, or have we learned something really substantial here? And are we going to do a bit of a combo?
Definitely the future is hybrid. I just got an email from one of my clients that I've been working with since beginning of the year. And we thought that, things were going to go back to, in-person events, and they weren't going to really do these content things. But she gave me a list of 4 events within the month of October in October. And this is just one of their clients. I work with them on multiple clients, and that's telling me that they're still going to be focusing on these virtual events. They may do in-person events, and maybe they'll show one of the live streams, or maybe they will do a follow-up series of where you actually get to talk and meet and, collaborate with other people in that specific subject matter. So, and I have a business person that I'm working with who does events or has been doing events for years pre-pandemic. And, they are all hearing about hybrid events. People are doing lead up virtual events and our friend May King does this stuff. She creates this FOMO for events that are actual in-person events. So it's a lot of, making tea. May King. She's one of my good friends. And she, she creates these, this FOMO of like a fear of missing out of people leading up to the actual in-person event. So it's a whole production. It's not just, hey, go to this city and go meet these people. It's, you want to meet them beforehand. Let's do a content series about what you're going to learn there. And then maybe you do some type of informal networking session. I'm just hearing a lot of just innovative ideas about hybrid events recently. And I think people have really enjoyed the fact that they have access to all of this content without having to go in person, especially if they have some personal things that, maybe they don't want to travel 36 hours in a day to get to an event, but they do want to engage with the content, or, they really want to see the people that are delivering the value. And, I still think people want the human connection in person. So I don't think that will go away. I just think people are still very weary about doing that.
Well, let me pick up on what you just said there. Erica, we've been working together a long time, and she now has another hybrid event coming up in October. So if you have the URL for that, Erica, please drop it in and I'll feature you there. So it was, when we did it, called the Global Digital Marketing Summit. It may indeed be called that again, but we tried to run it in May this year. It didn't sort of come together, but she's going to run it again. And this is exactly what we're talking about. On this call today, we've had people from Hanoi, from Nashville, from Toronto, from Philadelphia, from Jamaica, from Melbourne, right? Now, there's no way in the world we would have got all those people in the same room during the pandemic. There's no way. So this particular format serves the purpose. It serves the purpose of the initial pre-teaser, what you called the idea of, you've got an event coming up in October, for instance, where you can have a series of free live streams to juice people up. Who's speaking? Let's get them on the call. There it is. Right. And there's the URL. Now, this is live streaming 101. Someone on the call has an event, and we shout out the URL to her event. Nice. You can't get better than that. This is just the best possible scenario. Yeah?
Yes. Yeah. And thank you, Erica, for giving that and giving us reminding us of your event, and would definitely check it out and see if I can attend, or maybe help you out if you need some help.
But I also want to give a big shout out to Chris, who is the social audio guy. Do you know Chris? Nice.
No, I don't. But now I should. I feel like now that he changed his name from Minecraft Dad or Minecrafting Dad to social.
Chris in Philadelphia was a Minecrafter dude. He is still a Minecrafter dude, I'm guessing, and he was using Twitch. And he just came up with it, and we'll talk about this in a minute because this is part of the trend. We're now starting to find that Twitter Spaces and also Clubhouse, social audio, is a new trend we're now starting to find. Right. And because people are thinking, you know what, I don't know if I want to get dressed up. I don't know if I want to buy a light. You yourself said, it's getting dark outside. I'm going to have to fix my lighting. And run the room with some of those funky colors you got, because that'll just get people juiced up.
Okay.
You got to buy all this tech, right? You've got to buy all this tech.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a process. I have been already. Yeah, so, I didn't start off with all of this. I started with just my basic built-in webcam, and then I slowly upgraded as time went on.
If you want to see Marissa's pre-funky phase, she's got a really cool video on that about the 3 mistakes. We'll get to that in a minute, because that's just you in a room with your Arsenal photo up there. I'm guessing you must go for Arsenal Football Club, because it's always in your videos. So that's really quite funny.
It's a good talking point.
Yeah, it is. You're in Nashville, Tennessee, but you've got Arsenal up on the board. You clearly don't have an English accent, so you weren't born there, I'm guessing. That's the story. Let's have that story. Why do you go for?
Yeah, it goes back to social media. I had followed soccer, like the national team, U.S. teams, for a time, and I wanted to adopt a club. And I used to live in New York, and I was a Mets fan, or I am a Mets fan. New York Mets, and a fellow Mets fan had suggested I watch Arsenal, because they had just they're Chilean. They were born in Chile, so they followed Arsenal because of Alexis Sanchez. So they suggested, oh, you should watch Arsenal. This is when I was trying to find a club. I ended up watching Arsenal and liking them, and this was 2014. So I became an Arsenal fan, and I got to see my first match live in England on February 23rd, 2020. So right before everything
just
shut down. Yeah, and it was just amazing. So I'm an Arsenal fan, and that's how I became an Arsenal fan. And
there it is. So I'm tweeting while we're talking, but this is exactly what we're talking about here. The idea that the story, and Chris is all about this. Chris is all about the story. That just means that this particular stream is now very rich. It's me in Australia. It's you in Nashville. You go for Arsenal. How did that happen? You bumped into a guy in New York, and you went to England. This suddenly becomes more real. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to just shout out to Erica. She doesn't like the idea of social audio. She wants to see Marissa's face and, more importantly, a funky red light. I get you. I love live streaming. I love it. And I want to just run the room in what they call Twitter Spaces calls a refresh. I want to let you know that you can watch this show now on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Periscope, and also YouTube. This is exactly why I love live streaming, and I'm guessing this is why you do too, Erica. Yeah. I do the show once for 1 hour, but I send it to 3 places. I get the MP3, I get the MP4. I can repurpose it. I can turn it into a podcast. I can put it on YouTube. I can do little funky Twitter videos, which I will do today. And so social audio is a thing, but it's not for everybody. And we acknowledge that that's not going to be everyone's thing. But cool background, Marissa.
Thank you, Erica.
I'll tell you what, why don't we riff on the idea of how hard this is? I want people to understand that even though this probably looks like it's fun and funky, it's really messing with my brain. I've got to look in the camera and talk to you. I've got to watch the comments. I've got to go up and I've got to find a graphic that relates to the story we're telling. And I'm tweeting at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? This is really 4 people's jobs, isn't it?
Sounds like you need a producer.
I do. And so tell us what that feels like. What does that look like? What do you do for people?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a project manager when it comes to your live stream. You make sure the checklist is, and the checklist I'm giving that to everyone who's watching. You can get at livestreamprep.com, which I just created a domain for it like 5 minutes before you asked me. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna forward it to.
Yeah, there it is.
And it, it's essentially, if you think about it, you may not want to be in broadcast media. You may not want to be on TV like we talked about Netflix. But every one of those events, we're going to call them events because they are, whether people are watching your Netflix show or your TV show, has a producer. They have someone behind the scenes that's giving them audio cues or that's making sure that the teleprompter is loaded. They have all of these things. And I don't believe that we need to, if you have the means and you have the ability and you want to really fully be present, and that's why I use my slogan, if you want to be present for the live stream, a producer is really important because you don't have to look to the side to press buttons. You don't have to go and check Twitter. You're looking straight into the camera, delivering the value for later on when you want to, use this snippet, and maybe this is what snippets out of your live stream. You want to use this part for your social media or your website or whatever, you're going to clip this part into it. When you're not doing that, you're looking over here. You're not looking in the camera. You're not feeling like people are. Yeah, and especially on a solo stream, it's really important because you don't have the opportunity to make me full screen like this. Like I'm your guest, you're making me full screen. You're probably looking off on, doing things.
I'm hiding. I'm doing other things.
And I do that too when I'm on a stream with other people. I ask them a question, I do the background, but I can still hear the clicks, because I know that that's what a producer does. when you're a producer, solely a producer and not co-hosting or a guest or whatever, you make sure all of that stuff, you make sure the project we're talking about is your live stream or your event or whatever is actually done professionally and, seamlessly. So you don't have to worry about things going up properly, or you don't have to worry about your guests not showing up with proper lighting. We do tech checks. We do making sure that you're like sitting in the proper area, because it helps for you as a host. And if you're the solo person, to be present and looking into the camera. So
can we pick up on this question? I want to hold you. I want to come back to your 3-part video, which I love, and I've shared this actually with several people. One of which is internet speed, doing a speed check before. But do you want to pick up on this question from Sharon? She's doing quite a lot of really great events, but she's keen on also leveraging the process, and you're very keen on this too. So I'm sure you'd have an idea about this, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we confuse marketing, social media marketing, with is sales related tasks. Marketing is supposed to supplement your sales tasks. Sorry, excuse my misspeaking there. So social media marketing, whatever it is, content marketing, live streaming, driving people to your email list, freebies, whatever it is. There has to be some type of sales involved in that, because unless your audience is way big, thousands and thousands of people, your conversion rate is going to be really low. And a lot of times the people forget about those sales tasks. And for me personally, I'm going to talk about I'm my own business. Basically, I have people that help me on live streams. Once in a while, I have, colleagues that help me, and I have one assistant, but she doesn't do what I do. So I need to focus on business development. And you and I, Keith, have talked about this. I build the relationships with these people. I'm building a relationship with you right now. I'm building a relationship with other event producers similar to Erica. And we talk about me potentially helping produce shows. That's a sales related task, in my opinion. And they will go and hopefully check me out on social. They're going to see, okay, I have a YouTube channel. Okay, I have content on LinkedIn. I have some engagement on Twitter. I'm there and present on my website. There's stuff to look at. There's a lot of free stuff there that you can get. But when you want to start actually converting that to clients, you have to focus on the sales related tasks, because
let me pick up on this. I want to pick up on what I had a really interesting thought here. Sorry to interrupt, but picking up on Sharon's question. I've actually been doing a lot of work with Twitter Spaces, because I'm a Twitter dude. Makes sense that I would do Twitter Spaces.
Right.
And so there's Clubhouse as well, and Sharon introduced me to Deep Dive, which is sort of like a LinkedIn version. They don't own it yet, but I'm predicting they will. To bring you back in for that blue light. I love that look. So we're actually thinking very clearly about a funnel now, that the Twitter Spaces, which is completely free, but no video, will be just our little teaser, which you can do ad nauseum. Like you click a button and you're on. It's that easy to do. They're not very dynamic. They're not that sexy. But the point is they're very, very easy to do, and there's no cost, zero cost. What they're going to do is we're going to lead them in a funnel type fashion, talking about Sharon's exact question. We're going to talk about the idea of then running a series of free events on StreamYard. Right? This is the question we're actually addressing. So we take them from Twitter Spaces, which are really, you can monetize those, but it's very difficult. They're just really fun and funky intro calls, really. And then you bring them back to StreamYard, and Erica says, I want to see your face, Marissa. I want to see your funky red light, your blue light, your green light. I want to see that. So then you get to see, hey, here's this Keith. Here's this guy called Keith in Melbourne, Australia, and he talks funny, and that's what he looks like. And what's that book he's reading, right? And then there's this relationship, but still no money has changed hands.
Yeah.
So then we can have an opt-in. You've got a really lovely opt-in which is like a cheat sheet. And
Mhm.
you get, there's a very clear exchange there. You get their email address and you've made a new friend, and they get
Mhm.
some goodies, right?
Right.
That's the funnel. What
Mhm.
I'm thinking I'll do is that I'm going to run a series of events with Run the World, which is my favorite of these platforms that does that.
Right.
Sorry, the guys at StreamYard, because StreamYard is owned by Hopin, but Erica and I can
You could
attest to
still
the
do
fact
both.
we can do both.
You-
We can possibly
Yeah,
do
you
both.
StreamYard in to run the world, right?
Yeah. So there's a funnel, and Sharon, yell out if that makes a bit of sense, because you've got this free stuff. Because the hardest thing about the funnel, this is the hardest thing, is that people are not going to give you their email address if they don't know you. And why would they?
Right.
They're just not
Right.
going to, because there's too much spam going on and they don't trust
Right.
you. But if I said, look, I've got a freebie, and I've been talking for half an hour, 45 minutes. Look, okay, Keith's a dude. He knows what he's talking about. I'd be happy to have his freebie. I mean, yeah, no worries. And just go to keithkeller.com.au and I've got a free ebook if you want to do that. So you'd be inclined to try it, because I've been talking and you know who I am. Is
Right.
that sort of what you're going with the idea of a freebie and a funnel?
Yes. Yeah. I think in one of my videos, I don't know if it was the three mistakes. It's like a lot of people don't have a call to action. Like, even if the call to action is to connect with me on LinkedIn, let it be that. Be very clear on that, because maybe you will eventually have a funnel. Maybe you eventually have a freebie, all of that. It takes time, I think, to build that up. Well, I've been working for myself for 6 years, so I realize the importance of those things. So, I don't go on live shows where I can't offer something for my time, but also for you, for the audience. You've gotten to know me. I've talked about Arsenal. I've talked about, all these other topics which have been free flowing, but hopefully you will get to know me and trust what I know in what I do for
Yeah.
professionally.
And it would
And
be a
then
shame.
pick up.
Wouldn't it be a shame if you went to all that trouble and then you didn't get anything from it other than the fun of doing it?
Yeah.
You need some result, because you're busy. We're all busy. Like, there's only 24 hours in the day, and you want to sleep some of the time and look after your kids and go for a run, and you want to cook meals, and there's a zillion other things I could be doing. There's no shortage of things to do. So you want to make sure that if you're doing it, you get a bit of a sort of you move people along the funnel. Erica's really rocking it today. She's got some really, really, really good questions. Do you think we need to work on a freebie?
A collaborative one, I'd be down.
Yeah, there it is. So Erica has an event coming in October. We've already run one together, so I know this format works. As I said, it's fundamentally changed the way I view the world. And in regards to that story, I saved 27 hours of my life times 2. In fact, really 3 days. I saved 27 hours getting there, a day recovering, and 27 hours getting back, and a day recovering. There's 4 days of my life that I'm never getting back if I did that. I can tell you for sure that's not my view of the world. What we did was we did an event. It was 12:30 my time. I spoke for 1 hour. We had 50 people in the room in the hotel and 50 people around the world. It might have been 100 people in the hotel and 50 people online. But the point is that we had people in Nigeria, in Colombia, in Peru. We had people in Italy, because people are awake at various times. And a friend of mine who lives in Paris is just about to wake up and might watch as well. So, it fits in with this idea that we really have a global marketplace. And some of those people then can go on to our online products if we have online versions. So it really does pick up on this idea. I might run the room again about this idea, this one here, because I think it really needs to be addressed. We've got social audio, Twitter, Spaces, Clubhouse. We've got a live streaming, StreamYard, Restream, Haps. Riverside FM is a new one we're hearing about. And we've got the idea of virtual events. Hop in, Run the World. Zoom now invented a variation, and I will find some time to tweet about this Zoomtopia, which I'll tweet about a bit later. So with that in mind, we're coming up to the hour. If anyone else has got any questions, it's a very good time to jump in and ask those, because we've got plenty of time. Hopefully, I'll let Marissa sort of go and do her thing. It's getting 8 o'clock there in Nashville. How can people find out more? What do you want them to know?
Yeah, thank you so much for running that banner throughout the show. If you want to find out more specifically about prepping for your checklist, you can go to liveshowprep.com. And if you would like to find out more about me, what I do, you can go to my website at liveonsocialnow.com. I'm always available on LinkedIn. You can catch me on Twitter, but I don't really hang out in the DMs. Keith can attest to that.
Yeah.
I'm present where I am present, and it's not to say against specific what people do, what works for them. I'm just trying to be very, I don't want to be overwhelmed by social media. It's a lot, with all the platforms, and I've been working in it for 6 years. So myself, and so, I want to be authentic where I am. And if I'm not there, then I'm sure you can figure out. I even have my phone number on my website.
Wow.
If you want to call me. I mean, no one wants to talk on the phone, and I feel like this is us talking on the phone. But, I think I'm not afraid of that. You can give me a call. So.
Wow. Look, there's a couple of things. One is Sharon's getting massive value out of this. And Sharon, feel free to type in your details, because she's got some really cool events coming up around the idea of returning to work. And like my wife refuses to work at home. She refuses to work at home, and she goes into work every day. But a lot of people are saying, mate, I don't want the commute anymore. There's no way in the world you're going to get me on a train for an hour to go to an office where I just sit there and I can just be doing that at home. So Sharon has some very, very cool events about this. Erica, as we know, has an event coming up, but she's actually mentioned a very good point. We're up to the hour. Do you need to go, or you're up for another? We'll just keep going while we're on it.
Yeah, I'd like to go relax for a little bit. I'll give you a few more minutes.
Let's do a 10-minute warning. We'll do a 10-minute warning. We'll wrap it all up. And Erica's had the idea of gamification. Have you seen this starting to play out in live events where we start to make it a bit more fun?
Yeah, not specifically virtual events, but I'm part of a community here where I live, and they make earning, like, just writing a review is like gamification. There's a leaderboard, like you can answer polls. You can answer polls and like if you earn a certain amount of points, you can get like a $5 gift card to Applebee's or some restaurant or Target or whatever. But it's gamification because to entice people to be more engaging within this community. And that's not necessarily virtual events, but I imagine similar type things could happen. I've seen it with the event platform on the app called Hoova. Have you used it before? I don't know if you have, but they have a leaderboard, and the leaderboard is related to you engaging in the pre-event discussions, you setting up a meetup, and this was for Social Media Marketing World 2020. They had the leaderboard, and I think they had it for 2019 too. So
I remember that. I actually remember the leaderboard, and this is really interesting because
did you
on
go
a particular
to Social Media Marketing World?
No, we're so far away.
Yeah.
But on the leaderboard for Twitter, I was on it. I was like, Making Tea was in it. She was like number one. And several of my mates were there, but I thought it was really fascinating that on the leaderboard for Social Media Marketing World, I was in the top 10 because I was tweeting about it. And not because it featured me, but any random person in another country can actually affect the event on the ground.
Right.
So and we're now starting to feel, we're now starting to find that this work from home vibe is now becoming really tangible and really beneficial. Let me just read that out. Training for voice and body presentations, critical conversations, negotiations, trust in the workplace.
I think that's what she's
stakeholder. Yeah, so that's her premise. But virtual events and live streams are really the end, the start of the beginning of a new paradigm. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I travel an hour to go to the city when I'm not doing anything more by going there? And I've wasted 2 hours of my life on a tin can. I'm not getting that back. I can't really utilize that time. The Wi-Fi is terrible. Can't check my messages. I'm just sitting there staring out the window, right?
Right.
I could, if I was clever, listen to a podcast. I could, if I was clever. I could read a book and educate myself. But time is finite, and I can tell you for sure, it's got to be a really, really, really cool event to me to get on a tin can to get there, and even more so with an aeroplane, because we're a long way away from everything. It's a 16-hour flight to LA, right? From my house.
I have a friend in Melbourne. I think I don't know if you know her, Fiona Lucas.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a friend of mine, and when she comes to the U.S., she's always here for 2 weeks, and then she goes to New York, and then she goes, all these other places. She makes it worth her time to come here and do all those other things, and luckily she's able to do it.
Because you never get away from the real life stuff. So I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to. We've given everyone a chance to run the room and ask last questions. I've given everyone the chance to find out lovely about this particular checklist. Tell us, Marissa, what is in this checklist? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this again. So bear with me.
It's everything you need to think about for if you are prepping a live show, even prepping your live show streams for a virtual event. So thinking about certain things, not just when you're actually live and being present, looking into the camera, but also what happens after. Are you repurposing it? Is there a call to action similar to like what Sharon was saying about moving people through the sales funnel? What type of things are you thinking about? So, it doesn't apply to every live stream because it's all dependent on your strategy, but I think it will give people a good starting point to really think about when they want to start a live show or things that they didn't think about. I think you've had a lot of the good stuff in that checklist on this live show, your full screen overlays, calls to action banners, all of that engaging stuff. So I think you are a good example of using a checklist like this. And I don't even know if you used my checklist or you just knew all of this stuff you needed to do because you're so well experienced with these. But
it's a living case study of what's possible, isn't it? Like,
exactly.
The reason I love to come back to Sharon's question about how do we monetize or how do we even look at the comments. The reason I love StreamYard is because StreamYard allows me, the host, as one person, to relatively easily create a show that looks good, builds trust, includes goodies, and it's a win-win. I have fun. The guest gets value. The host, me, has value. And also, most importantly, the viewers get value. I personally think that StreamYard is an unbeatable solution. Restream's a very, very close second. But look, I wanted to thank you, Marissa.
Thank you.
Coming on the show, taking time out of your Nashville night, and putting up with my incessant DMs about this. But it's proven to be quite fruitful because we've now come up with a show that's very, very, very dynamic, haven't we?
Right,
and
exactly.
very beneficial. And I think partially what we've done here is a good case study for what's possible, certainly for solo. And just imagine if we added you in the background and added a team of people, I could look into the camera more. I wouldn't have to be worried about the comments and the tweets and all of the other things. It fries my brain. But I wanted to thank everyone for being on the call. We have these very, very regularly, and the hashtag to follow there is virtually unlimited TV. And the premise for that, if you don't know, is that we've been in lockdown virtually continuously since the 22nd of March, 2020. We might not get out of it until 2022. And it's been over 200 days in total in the last 18 months. We go into lockdown, we come out, we go into lockdown, we come out. And they just noticed yesterday we're going to do another 3 weeks. So I created the hashtag virtually unlimited TV. If I can't go to the city, I can at least talk to my friend Marissa and my friend Sharon
Right.
and my friend Martin in Toronto and my friend Erica. I can at
Mm-hmm.
least simulate the real world. I mean, I'm desperate. I mean, we're desperate.
Yeah.
There's riots in the street. People are desperate to meet people again, but we can't because there's this thing called the virus. So this show, virtuallyunlimitedtv.com, because I've got a YouTube playlist for that,
Yes.
is just all these different ways we can simulate the real world and maybe even replace it. Then that's a discussion for another time. But I want to thank you very much. Go and enjoy your night, and we'll be leveraging this material again, and we'll see
Appreciate it.
see you all later.
Thank you.